It's Friday and something stanky. Or should I say skanky? These are my top 5 oud-based fragrances on Top 5 Friday. It's Friday, which is the best day of the week. Not because you don't have to work anymore, but because it's Top 5 Friday. Now we're getting into the cool weather this time of year, guys, which means we're going more into our woody fragrances, our ambery fragrances, our vanillic, resinous, tonka, cool. Oud, aka Agarwood, is a very, very precious, expensive fragrance material that's pretty dark and most oftenly showcased in Middle Eastern perfumery. However, in the last 10 years, a lot of Western perfumery has adopted the controversial fragrance note to the point where it's flooding our shelves. I want to show you my top 5 oud fragrances in my collection, but before then, here's an honorable mention. Black Afghano by Nasamato gets an honorable mention for me. I really love this fragrance, and I love the Nasamato presentation. It's a high concentration of oils in here. There is a ton of notes in this. Oud, a little bit of cannabis, a bit incensey, and it will stain your clothes or whatever you're applying this on. It gets an honorable mention because of the evaluation. The price would be pretty decent if you got a full 100 mils with this, but you don't. You get 1 fluid ounce, 30 mils. Objectively, that should still last you quite a while, but there's some other fragrances on my list, namely number 5, that give you similar performance, but at a much better evaluation, price-wise. So without further ado, my number 5 oud fragrance is Interlude Man by Amouage, #Blue Beast. And let me tell you, this fragrance is a beast, even with a magnetic cap. Interlude Man was one of my first introductions into the world of Amouage. What an introduction that was. Interlude Man showcases oud, but it also gives you quite a bit of incense. What I like about Interlude Man, it starts off very spicy and peppery and it stings the nostrils, as they say. But then it settles down into this really interesting, smoky incense, woody sweetness. The ambery, almost benzoin-like sweetness that kind of creeps in the background is what makes this fragrance so good to me. Now, because the longevity on this is pretty nuclear, it will remain linear for chunks of time. But over its lifespan, it does go through quite a few changes. And really, it's number 5 just because I kind of see it more so as an incense fragrance versus an oud fragrance. But nonetheless, there's definitely oud in this guy. At number 5, Interlude Man. My number 4 oud-based fragrance is my first Top 5 Friday tie. M7 and M7 Oud Absolu by Yves Saint Laurent. M7 was released back in the day when Tom Ford was in charge of all perfume-related doings at YSL.
I wouldn't be caught dead in flip-flops.
And what he did with this fragrance is he introduced oud to the mainstream Western perfume market. It was a very bold move, but looking back historically, what an important one. M7 was a groundbreaking fragrance that kind of paved the way for all kinds of oud fragrances in Western perfumery. Sadly, this guy is discontinued and fetches a pretty penny on the online market, which is why I want to show you M7 Oud Absolu. This fragrance is extremely easy to find. It's all over the department stores and online. I do think the oud is a little more present in this one, especially near the opening and mid, but the dry down on this one is very good. And honestly, I don't see the need to go searching for this unless you can get it for a good price, which I highly doubt, because I know what I paid for this, so. At number 4, the M7 Bros. At number 3, said to be one of the most wearable ouds, Tom Ford Oud Wood. Oud Wood is a very clean, professional oud-based fragrance. I just love this unique combination of notes. When you smell it, you definitely get some of that oud, but it's almost airy, sparkling even, borderline aquatic in how it comes across. There's a lovely effervescence to it. I'm not taking the piss. It really kind of just beautifully radiates off you. Now, some people say that the modern black label formulations don't perform quite as well as this one, but I think either way, the scent does speak for itself. If it is that bad of a performer, I would just carry a decant around like a boss, because you'll feel like a boss wearing this one. At number 3, Oud Wood. My number 2 oud fragrance, Colonia Intense Oud. by Acqua di Parma, a notable niche Italian house releasing an oud fragrance. Cool, man. Colonia Intense Oud is part of the brown line, the brown Colonia line of Acqua di Parma fragrances. I almost think that this is my most wearable oud. Being an Acqua di Parma Colonia flanker, albeit a pretty distant one, it does have a lot of really nice fresh qualities to it. The opening is pretty Colonia-esque, but it's just enveloped and blanketed in this really, really beautiful, bittersweet, woody accord. And that's the oud. What's even better is this is an eau de cologne concentration, but being the Colonia Intensa, this lasts 16 hours on my skin, and it projects for maybe 6 of those hours. That's saying quite a bit for a fragrance that could maybe be worn even in the summer. But also due to that oudiness, it can work in the winter. This could work at any temperature level to me. I always feel the need to point out that my version is Colonia Intensa. Apparently, this is the vintage and it lasts a lot longer than Colonia, but even the modern formulation still is a powerhouse. So don't fret, my fragrant friends. At number 2, Colonia Intensa Oud. My number 1 oud fragrance in my collection by the house of Diptyque, Oud Pulao. What can I say about this fragrance? Personally, I've smelled a lot of oud rose combo fragrances. This one's my favorite. The current formulation of Oud Ispahan, it's a bit of a diluted version of its former self. I've smelled the vintage too. I still think I prefer this one. While the two have a lot of similarities, I feel Oud Pulao, it's more wearable for me as a man. The oud is a little more prominent than the rose. Its dry down is the nicest oud dry down I've smelled in a long, long time. I tried the Baikilians. I even tried the Xerjoffs and Suspiros, but none of them had me smelling my wrist over and over and over like this one. The House of Diptyque isn't really talked about a whole lot, especially in the men's fragrance community. The ladies know what's up. But for the fellas, there's so many nice fragrances by Diptyque, especially in the black eau de parfum line. If you like oud and you like rose, look no further. My number 1 oud fragrance in my collection, Oud Pulao. Oud fragrances! You love them or you hate them, or you kind of like them. I mean, it's a whole spectrum. Although not for the faint of heart, to the more experienced fragrance user, oud fragrances can be quite exciting and stimulating to wear. For the upcoming winter, I plan to rock out with my ouds, and I look forward to it. What's your number 1 oud fragrance? Let me know in the comments below. All of our links to the Facebook group, Snapchat, and Instagram are down below. And if you like what you see, then why not subscribe? And if you like oud, like this video. See you on Monday! Or in the Facebook group if you're part of that, too. Peace!